From the beautiful city of Los Angeles, California, we bring you the Gimme Three Podcast.
Welcome back, cinephiles, cinema lovers, movie appreciators, and of course, our family and friends to the Gimme Three Podcast, a series for cinephiles. The gang is finally back together. I'm Bella Efstratis, joined by my fantastic co-host, Nicholas Ybarra today. Nick, how have you been? It's so great to be back on the show with you.
I'm doing great. Happy to be back with you after a long break. The gang's back together. And, don't worry, audience. I know a lot of our audience has been sending me messages, dropping into my DMs and being like, yo, are you and Bella beefing? What's going down? Like, hashtag Cinephile Beef 2024 was trending on Twitter.
It was a whole thing.
There's a whole thing. But don't worry, my friends. It's nothing but love between Bella and I. We're not beefing. It's just been one of those crazy months. Crazy. We're on our as we're planning out our schedule. We're calling this summertime madness.
Yeah,
because our schedules are mad. They're crazy.
That's true. Things have been crazy busy. I recently moved into a new place, but I'm finally getting settled, so I'm very excited about that. But
congrats on the new place.
Thank you. Yes, it was. It's always chaotic. It's always worse than you think it's going to be. You're like, it's gonna be fine.
Right.
I'm like, it's literally no big deal. And then like cut to, it's like 2 a.m. and we're still moving. And I'm like, oh, this is the best. This is so much fun.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm even more excited for our episode today. If you guys love animation and short films, you've come to the right place, because today the Gimme Three Podcast is bringing you Gimme Three animated shorts from both of us. So we've got a total of 6 animated shorts lined up for you this episode. And what a lineup this is. I think this might be the most bizarre mix we've seen yet of like movies on our podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Mine are kind of all over the place with my 3 picks. I feel like I don't really have any like connecting themes or styles, I would say, aside from I unintentionally chose 3 films from 2021, which is so weird. I guess that was the only year I watched shorts. So I don't know what happened there. But Nick has recommended 3 mind-blowing stop motion films that I'm so excited to talk about today. I'm a massive fan of animation, and binge watching these animated shorts over the course of the week when I should have been packing was the best guilty pleasure ever. So without further ado, do you want to kick us off with your first animated short for the day?
Yes. But the one thing I do want to say before I get into the first one is that as a writer, I find shorts to be far more difficult to conceive and to write and to execute well. You have to do a lot of things that feature films have to do. You have to develop these characters. You have to make the audience care. Your theme has to be, probably maybe even sharper than it would have to be in a feature film. You have to do all these things that make a story tick, but you have to do it within a fraction of the time. So as a filmmaker, and as a film festival programmer, most importantly, as a cinephile, as a fan of movies, I'm just always in awe of a short film that can really hit on all cylinders.
Yes.
Which includes a lot of the ones that we're going to be talking about today. And we're starting it off going way back to 1962, a film called The Hole, directed by John Hubley, I believe is how you say his last name. And this film, on the surface, it is basically a 15-minute conversation between these 2 blue-collar workers as they're at the bottom of a hole at a construction site. And the conversation kind of like ping-pongs from, mundane or everyday life, talking about like insurance and dancing, to the extremely esoteric and very heavy, finally landing and finishing on a discussion about like the possibility of accidental nuclear war, accidental nuclear weapons attack. The film still holds up, you know, if not only does it hold up, it might have even more weight now than it did in 1962. I don't know. Who knows? 1962, You're coming right off the Cold War, so maybe not, but it still stings, and it still brings up a lot of crazy questions. And I think what makes this movie cook with so much fire are the vocal performances by famous jazz musician Dizzy Gillespie and George Matthews, famous actor.
Absolutely.
They play the two construction workers, and this conversation, by all accounts, from the research that I have done, was improvised, mostly improvised, this conversation, which explains why it feels so real and feels so off the cuff. And you have these, you know, verbal tics and, you know, random brain tangents, and they circle back around and getting into the conversation. It feels like a real conversation between these two, you know, fucking blokes that could be happening in a barbershop, could be happening at a bar, happens to be happening at work. But Bella, what did you think of The Whole?
Oh my God, this short was crazy. Like, in the sense that at first I started off so confused, and then I kind of worked it out, and then I was back to being confused, and then by the end of it I was like, whoa. That was a whole crazy experience in just 15 minutes of just these two dudes talking. Like, I honestly, like, I kind of judged a book by its cover. I had very low expectations, and then I was like, this was so much more than I thought it was going to be. And I think, you said it perfectly. I do think this is like a very timely and fascinating look into, like, you know, the sociopolitical culture and the era of this time, and like the varying opinions of this time, especially being on the cusp of the Cold War era, and like just the evolution of the conversation between George Matthews and Dizzy is like, it feels, I am very interested in the improvisation of it, because I feel like this is like such a real conversation that honestly happens with me all the time, where like you start off having a light convo with a friend or even someone you just met, and like by the end of it you're like in a deep talk reflecting on society or social media or politics, like whatever is of the moment. And it's just that one little conversation that can lead into like an in-depth debate or analysis of our current state of the world. In this one, obviously, it started off as simple as accidents, and then quickly evolved into this crazy, impactful conversation of like nuclear warfare at the time. So yeah, I thought this was so interesting. And it even made me feel like this would be a great opportunity to like, it'd be a great opportunity to show this short to students, like in history or even like ethics, morality classes.
Right.
It's got like the really mesmerizing visuals to keep people entertained, but then there's also really funny elements to it. Like, there were so many moments where I was literally laughing out loud. But then it also sparks so much conversation and arguments on like these widely debated subjects in terms of the ethics of everything. So yeah, I really enjoyed this film.
Yeah, it won Best Animated Short at the 1963 Academy Awards, and
oh wow, yeah.
I think 50 or 60 years later, somebody do the math for me. I'm not good at math. The Library of Congress added it to their arsenal.
Oh wow, awesome.
So yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, the first time I saw this movie was not that long ago. I saw it last year for the first time, and the reason I saw it was because the Criterion Channel put together a collection of films in celebration of the release of Oppenheimer, Yeah, so it had like The Day After Trinity, which is a great, incredible documentary about, Trinity and what it did to that area and all that kind of stuff. Great watch. Check that out. But it had some other films that were just, like touching on nuclear war and stuff like that. So this was on there, and I was, on the Oppenheimer, train, stick it in my veins, anything on Oppenheimer last year. So I was like, I'll check this out, and watched it. It finished. I was blown away. I immediately just started it again. I just watched it like back to back, like twice in a row. And I think I've watched it like 5 or 6 times since last year. But I
love that.
Yeah, it's cool. You mentioned the animation style is kind of like, that might be a deterrent for like younger audiences now, I think, because the animation style is like,
it's so bizarre. Yeah.
It's kind of crude. I think it kind of I think it looks like jazz. I don't even know how else to describe it.
I honestly totally agree. Like, I don't know what exactly that means, but it's right.
It doesn't really hold to a particular form. Like, even the two main characters kind of like change color sometimes. Yeah, they shape shift, and it's just like, they're just like boom bop. It's just the animation is going along for the ride of these two men as much as we, the audience, are. And the animators are just like, oh, we're going here now. Okay, like it. Let's go there. Oh, we're doing this now. Okay, boom. We're over here. That's great. So it's really fascinating to watch. And then doing some research on Mr. Director John Hubley, it made a little bit more sense also, because this cat used to work for Disney. In fact, he was like kind of a big guy at Disney. He was the director of animation for Fantasia.
Oh, wow.
But then he did not really like working for Disney. He did not like their restrictive rules, and they're like, oh, you got to draw, basically color in the lines, and he wanted to color outside of the lines. So creative differences. He left the company during the 1941 Disney strikes, broke out on his own, and made several other long-standing works, including The Ragtime Bear. I'm not sure if you've seen that.
Adding it to the list.
That's the film that debuted Mr. Magoo, a character which he co-created. So
that's awesome.
And then, of course, won the Academy Award for this. So he's got he's done a lot, that John Hubley, but it made sense, like, seeing this animation style and hearing that story of like, oh, this dude just wanted to like express himself in like the most visceral, like, we're just we're making art here, so
totally,
it makes a lot of sense, and it works. I think it works well for the piece.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, thematically, just the kind of I don't know, maybe like the chaos of it. I don't know if maybe there's a better word, but like,
it feels chaotic. The animation,
it does. Yeah, like the movement, and then even just the background. It reminded me of like Jackson Pollock paintings, like just splattered, smudgy, like different colors. And then I was like, I need to know how this was like created, like what tools and all that type of stuff. And so I guess I was so fascinated to learn that the characters were colored with like a clear wax crayon. Or crayon. Sorry, I don't know. I have a weird Utah accent, so sometimes I say words differently.
Wait a second.
When I get made fun of.
Let's back up here. People say crayons?
Okay, right? I've been made fun of for saying crayon instead of crayon, and it literally is like, I can't get over it, because I think crayon sounds insane.
Yeah,
like
crayon,
crazy. Yeah, but then I was like, crayon, maybe that's a little bit, I don't know, maybe that's not it either. So if there's a third way to say this, let us know, because I'm struggling, clearly. I'm hung up on it.
Oh my God.
I couldn't even get through the sentence without acknowledging it.
Crayon gate. My gosh.
Anyways, so yeah, they used crayons, and then they painted like watercolors on top of that, which gives it this all that texture and like the smudgy kind of look.
Right.
And then also they animated it on paper instead of like cells, which I know that Disney worked with a lot. So I just thought that was so interesting because I think it explains so much of like how they achieved that look. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's cool. That is cool.
So cool. And yeah, I love the rhythm of this short as well. Like that's why I think jazz, you saying that made so much sense because it does have that like flow to it.
Right. Yeah, and I love the banter between the guys. You know, it's like sometimes it seems like Dizzy's like, and I'm guilty of this also, where he's like trying to set up, what he's gonna say a little too much, and George Matthews would just be like, "Go ahead, come on, get to." Basically, he's just like, "Get to the point, come on, let's go."
I love it. Yeah, he's like, suppose that.
Right. He's like, "Go ahead." Say it.
Yeah, they had such a great chemistry. It really did give like their characters being like coworkers together. I think made so much sense where it's like, you know what, I don't really want to talk, but also like we got nothing else to do.
What else are we gonna
work? Do? Like, let's get into it, even though we're not really even friends.
Right.
So yeah, I loved the connection between these two characters, and obviously George and Dizzy as well. I thought that was so cool.
So, my friends, I hope you enjoy it, and I'd really love to hear what you think about it. If you want to check it out, again, it makes a great double bill with Oppenheimer or even, what was that movie that I mentioned? The Day After Trinity. Yes, the documentary. It is available still on the Criterion channel, so you can check it out there. There's also some versions of it available on YouTube. Just make sure you find a good link on YouTube if you're going to watch it on YouTube that allows you to watch it in 1080. Don't watch a like 360 or 480. Don't watch one of those, because like the animation, again, as we said, is kind of like crude and chaotic enough that a low res export of it will really deter the experience.
Totally agree.
Check it out. The Hole. And make sure you type in, if you're looking for it, The Hole 1962, because The Hole is also the name of several pornographic films. So make sure you watch the right one.
There's a lot of that out there. Yeah. Alrighty, on to the next. I am so excited to talk about a short film from one of my favorite animators, if not my favorite, Alberto Mielgo. I was first introduced to his work back in 2019 with Netflix anthology series Love, Death, and Robots, which is a series that's very near and dear to my heart as just a massive fan of sci-fi and animation. And he directed one episode in that first season that just was like nothing I'd ever seen before in terms of animation, and I just thought the visual storytelling of it was riveting. Like I full on became obsessed. And it was so hard not to choose his work from the series for this episode because they are my favorites, but I figured maybe we could save that for a potential future Love, Death, and Robots episode. Gimme Three, Love, Death, and Robots. So if you're a fan of the show like me, stay tuned for that one. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. I don't know. But anyways, Mielgo has such a unique and striking style, and I think his films just left such an impact on me that I really immediately became obsessed with his work. So without further ado, introducing Mielgo's 2021 Academy Award-winning animated short, The Windshield Wiper. So we have another Academy Award-winning short. I guess we love the Oscars when it comes to animated shorts.
I guess so.
But to introduce the short opens on a man smoking a cigarette in a coffee shop, and he's pondering the following question: what is love? And what follows is a rhythmic collage of various examples or scenes of romance, relationships, and images of love in its many forms. I think that he is just a master of his craft, and I think this short is a great testament to that, as he wrote, directed, produced, and edited it on top of like leading the animation team and production and sound design. It's just such impressive work. But before I get more into it, Nick, what were your thoughts on this short? And was it a first time watch? Had you seen it before? All that stuff.
It was a first time watch for me, so
Oh, cool.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. You know me, I'm very anti-tech.
Yeah.
And this
Yep.
this movie is very anti-tech. So I was like, all right, I like what this guy Alberto's got to say here.
Right? Yeah, very anti-tech.
I do think he missed a big opportunity, because you said it. He poses that question, "What is love?" And he really should have put that song. You know, that night. That night at the Roxbury. I was like, God, why are we not playing that right now?
Oh man, can you imagine? Quite the tone shift.
It
maybe
would have been quite the tone shift, or do a cover of it or something, you know, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it explores kind of like. Here's what I was thinking when I was watching it.
Yeah,
was just like, is romance dying? Was the question that I was left with. What is love? I know is the obvious question that the filmmaker poses.
Mm-hmm.
But the question I was left with myself was like, is romance dying? And there's like several scenes that kind of like display that or pose that question, like the scene in the grocery store with the two people standing right next to each other and they match with each other.
Yeah.
And then they just say, do you want to message this person? And they're standing right next to each other. Do you want to message this person, or do you want to keep swiping, you know, like a robot, just like swiping through faces? And they both just go, yeah, we'll just keep swiping.
Yeah.
And then there was this other scene that I kind of found really fascinating, which was you actually don't even see any humans in it. It's from the satellite perspective. And we see on over the satellite, we see a text message like thread between two potential lovers, you know, and one person is kind of pouring their heart out to the other. And that person says that he had a great time, or she had a great time, and they want to see the other person again, like later tomorrow. And they even say, and then I want to see you tomorrow after that, and tomorrow after that. And as a text message, it comes across as very forward and quite, you know, like, I don't know, predatory, creepy, I guess would be the word.
It's a bit intense. Yeah.
But how many times, you know, like if somebody were to, and you were attracted to the person, obviously, and you had like a little bit of a connection, if somebody were to look you into the eyes and say that and pour their heart out to you, it has a totally different effect, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that is romance. That is romance. I mean, that is literally what that is what we aim for in life, that kind of romance. But through a text message, it's just completely unnerving.
Yeah. It's so like, it really is creepy.
Yeah.
Which is so sad.
So anyways, those were just like a few of the big, like, random meditations that I had while watching the film, and just how grateful I am to be married.
I love it. Yeah, there's a lot of it's interesting. I can't really tell. I've watched this short a few times, and I can't really pinpoint if it's like optimistic or pessimistic. Like it's almost just in between, where it's like it could go either way based on your own experience, kind of.
Yeah, I don't think it's either. I think it's just showing this is what is. This is is the reality of what love and romance may look like, today,
in the age of technology.
Yeah. So I think it was just kind of a collection of meditations. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't really, I'm with you. I didn't get a sense of like optimism or pessimism, more just like, this is the reality we live in.
Yeah, totally. And like I think we do get at least like some, like you were saying, a good example, another example of that would be just like in the coffee shop. We hear these voices off screen, and it's like kind of a constant buzzing in the main guy's ear from like a group of people sitting at a table next to him, and they're like, I think they're talking about their own experiences with relationships. And like it was just so interesting because you can only pick up bits and pieces, which I thought was a really interesting way to do this rather than just have it be completely explicit. Like explicit messages, but like you pick up pieces where someone's like, oh, you don't want to be too comfortable or be too lovey or like want something too much because that's desperate, or like different points like this. And I read that for the voices in the cafe, Mielgo actually invited over 3 men to dinner and asked them 6 specific questions, and then did the same with 3 women on like a different night. And because he wanted to just see like how there might be any differences in like how people view relationships based on like gender, I guess, specifically men and women in this case. But I just thought that was really interesting that they were like real people's beliefs about relationships, and they were all so different. And then like they were all so many like rules, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I think also is what leads him, I guess, spoiler alert to the end of this short, but I think that's what leads him to the conclusion that love is like a secret society. Like it's a society because of all the rules and conventions, but it becomes secret because it's like individualized and personal to each person. And I don't know, I really like the idea of like when he says that love is a secret society. It's so cheesy, but I really love that idea because I do believe that like every person has their own unique relationship or like their own unique love language with their loved ones, and that like varies based on the category of the relationship, whether it's like family, friends, romantic, sexual partner. Every relationship is different and intimate and private, and it really is kind of a secret world. So I really liked the ending of that, like that getting to that conclusion. I thought it was unexpected in a way. I thought he was kind of just going to be like, I don't know, what is love?
I thought he was going to do this. I thought he was going to go, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
Yeah, there's so many ways to go with it. And yeah, I just thought it was cool that this man, after all the time that passes sitting in the cafe and all the scenes we see, gives like a genuine answer. And it's his own answer. Like, you know, it's like, it's not necessarily the right answer, but it is something that kind of like leaves you with an afterthought in a way where you're like, whoa, what does that mean now? And you kind of have your own processing once the film is over, if that makes sense.
Totally. I hadn't thought about what that statement meant when it ended, because I think I was left with kind of like my own thoughts on what I had seen previously. But
right, yeah.
I like what you said, and I think it's totally accurate about, you know, all the rules and those conversations. Like, I figured that they were like real conversations because they sounded so real. They sounded like shit that you overhear at bars or whatever, like guys talking, like they were talking about bitches, you know, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then like hearing the women say like, oh, I was his babysitter, I was doing this. It's like, oh, yep, I've heard that from friends.
Yeah.
So, but then you talk about the rules, and I think that's so accurate. And there are all these supposed rules, and everybody's got their own set of them, and you don't need to, like, all you got to do is get married or get engaged, because then you're gonna start hearing from all of your married friends about, like, oh, well, don't do this, or here's some
How this
advice.
works.
No, this is how
Yeah.
this works. This is how that works. It's like all these rules that are kind of just like, I mean, I'll end the conversation here, but just follow your heart and do what's best for you and your partner.
Right.
You know,
It's not like everyone knows the right answer or has
Exactly.
it figured out. And I can guarantee they don't actually. But
right.
all we can do is, follow your heart and try and be respectful. And
Yes.
yeah, I think honestly, I could go on and on. I love just like thinking about what is really being said and stuff in this, because it is kind of just like a collage of fleeting images, and you can kind of just take what you will from each one. And then also just, I love his animation style so much. I don't know how you feel about it, but I just think it's so interesting.
Was it rotoscope animation?
So apparently it's keyframe. So it's not live action or like motion capture or anything, which is always so surprising to me, because I think the like movement of it is so realistic. Like the characters move in, their physicalities, when they take like a breath, or like the wind blows their hair, like, or like even just like a twitch or something.
Yeah, you see like their chests like rising and falling as they breathe, and that's why I thought it was rotoscope, because it felt so real.
It feels so authentic, and it's just one of the other one of the biggest most impressive aspects of his style, I think, is like knowing that aspect of it. And then also I was so excited when I saw that he was nominated, first of all, for this, and let alone won it, because I just think his work is so ambitious, and he's creating these like, and visualizing these landscapes or characters in such a perfect blend of like realism and surrealism. Like there's so many realistic aspects of his characters and the landscape around them, but then there are certain elements that are like slightly off. And I was reading like an interview with him, and he described it as as something similar to the concept of like uncanny valley, something that seems very human but isn't at the same time. And then he went on to explain that impressionism is also his biggest like inspiration or tool in achieving this effect or style, because he'll give the painting or like the image just enough detail to make it look real, but it's not like every single detail imaginable to make it look perfectly realistic, if that makes sense. Like
right.
It's literally just enough details that the human eye can comprehend or like bring the image together as a whole. So I just think that's so cool, and I think it makes, like, I don't know, I've been trying to verbalize trying to figure out how to verbalize his animation style, and I couldn't do it. I literally was like, I have to look up what he says about this, because it's really, really beautiful, but very uncanny valley, honestly. Like there's something off about it, and that's what I like about it so much.
Well, it must be seen to be truly experienced. So
yes,
check it out. The Windshield Wiper. Where the hell did we watch this?
I believe I watched it on YouTube.
I think it is on YouTube. A damn good version of it is available on YouTube.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of love and crazy animation styles, we've got the 2019 film written and directed by Bruno Collet. I'm going to need your help, Bella. Mémorable. Is that it?
Yeah, you killed it.
Mémorable.
I love it.
Which is, again, French. It is a film about an aging painter, Luis, who is unfortunately suffering from Alzheimer's disease. And the film follows him and his wife, Michelle. And what is so powerful about this film? Well, first, I should mention this is a stop motion animation film. And the animation design of this character and just like the world building is so breathtaking, because the characters and the world that they build, it looks kind of like 3-dimensional Van Gogh, you know?
Yes.
You see like the texture of the paint, you see the brush strokes even on the characters' faces.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't hide away from like the fact that these are works of art in themselves and they've been like crafted by, you know, humans and paint and brush strokes.
Yeah.
And that works because the character's a painter. But then you find out even more why it works. Because the genius of this film is that it's told through Luis's point of view. You know, it's from his perspective. So we get as disoriented as he does, we the audience. And through his perspective, this Van Gogh inspired work and the characters in the world become more and more abstract as the film goes along, as his mind is fading. And faces, you know, become very, as the movie goes on, like other faces of his kids, faces of his wife become very like avant-garde. They become like some almost unrecognizable, sometimes even as just like, is that a human? Don't know. Random household items look like one thing but turn out to be something completely different. So it's a powerful film thematically, and the visuals and the animation style do a lot of the storytelling here, which I think is the mark of a great animated film. So Bella, what were your thoughts on Mémorable?
Memorable. Yeah, no, I think you said it perfectly. Like this film kind of broke me, but also blew me away at the same time. Like my heart was in pieces, but this was also easily some of the best stop motion animation. I guess specifically like claymation, right?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, just in terms of like creativity and fluidity, like I was just completely mesmerized from beginning to end. And yeah, I loved how you talked about the strokes, like the lines of their faces. I thought, and just overall, just like the ode or tribute to Van Gogh, or like even Picasso, I would say, like when the faces at the dinner party are shifting, they kind of reminded me of like Picasso's kind of creepy, misshapen faces in like his work.
Absolutely.
And I thought it was just such a brilliant depiction. Like I was so struck by the depiction of his Alzheimer's or dementia. Like I was just so curious how they were going to go about it, because it is like something we've seen depicted in film many times, but this was probably the most unique that I've seen. Especially being from, like you said, from his perspective, and so tapping into like the visual art of it was just so beautiful. Like it like I'm struggling to explain it, but what I loved the evolution of it, like the way that objects start like melting away into his touch as he's like forgetting them, or as they simply become like unrecognizable to him.
Yeah.
I thought this was a very clever way to depict this experience. But what I loved even more is like we were talking about like his dementia or Alzheimer's evolving into being visualized in like artistic terms and motifs, and that stemming from his identity as a painter or as an artist. Like it's the very core of his identity. So it makes him who he is. It makes sense that his dementia would manifest in that way. So I really, really I loved this film. I loved the music.
Yeah, the music was great.
Oh, I couldn't get enough of it. But then there's definitely elements of this that I was kind of like confused about, like the doctor. I was wondering if you could talk more, if you like knew why or not the doctor. I don't know what I would refer to him as. I guess I just said doctor because he's the one who like diagnoses Luis, but he was like the only one that wasn't human in the film.
Yeah. Yeah, I had the same kind of questions about that, about like why he seemed less human, way less human than all the other characters that Luis interacted with, and I don't have an answer for you, but I did question it also.
I'm so intrigued by that.
I do. I am gonna give a spoiler, and I'm gonna spoil the ending just because I want to talk about how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
So it's a 12-minute short. If you're down to have the ending spoiled, listen on. If you're not down to have the ending spoiled, skip ahead like a few minutes. But this ending is so gut wrenching because he like doesn't recognize his wife, Michelle, and she like walks into the room and he's attracted to her. And he's like, "Whoa, my God, you are stunning," you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, "I want to paint you," you know? And so he starts painting her and she goes to kiss him and he says, "Oh no, what if I'm married, we can't kiss." He said, "But I'll dance with you." And so they're dancing and it's lovely. And I should mention, like, at this point, like, really all that we see from his perspective of his wife is like eyes and ears and mouth and stuff. Like she's very like she's disappearing, you know? And so they're dancing and he asks her, "Have you ever thought about marriage?" And she says, "Oh yes, for better and for worse." And as that happens, she's like, they're dancing, they're laughing, they're having a good time. And as they're dancing, the final remnants of her, which are basically like paint splotches now, start like elevating and disappearing into this white void. And oh man, I remember I actually saw this movie in the theater because we went to see the animated shorts that year at the Lemley. And I remember just being like, "Holy shit!" I just totally broke down because it was like such a powerful, gut wrenching ending of a film. Brother,
really sticks with you.
Yeah. So this one stuck with me. I hadn't seen it since that time I saw it in the theater 5 years ago, and I never forgot it and picked it for this.
No, I'm so glad you did. Like this one, I really want my parents to watch this one. I think they would love it. And like they haven't watched a lot of animation, I guess, like stop motion and stuff. So I think this would be a great introduction to like the medium of it, but then also just what it can be and what it can do and how it can make you feel. So highly, highly recommend this one to everyone, honestly.
Mémorable is available for $2 on Apple. You can rent it on Apple or actually buy it. I think if you spend the $2, you own it on demand or digitally, whatever you want to call it. But it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yes, absolutely. All right. My second pick for the day is another 2021 Oscar nominee for Best Animated Short Film. And I would argue it's probably the most bizarre one we've got lined up today. I'm even a little bit confused why I picked it, but
it's the most of the ones that we're discussing tonight. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And, I thought it would be a cool film to dissect. According to Letterboxd, this is the lowest rated film that I've picked for the podcast so far. I was really shocked to see how much hate this film was getting because when I first watched it, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was so creepy and original and just kind of complex. And I really liked the animation style, but all of these aspects were absolutely hated by Letterboxd reviewers. So I think this will be an interesting one today. But the film is Joanna Quinn's Affairs of the Art. It's narrated by Beryl, a middle-aged woman with an entirely consuming obsession for drawing and the pursuit of art, if you will. This passion takes over every single aspect of her life, deeply affecting her family life as well. And as Beryl recounts her unwavering dedication to her craft, we're given a glimpse into her family's history, revealing that each member grapples with their own unique and unexpected addiction. So, yeah, Nick, what were your thoughts on this? Tweaky film.
Yeah, I mean, I read some of the Letterboxd reviews, and I was not as harsh on it as them. I thought it was okay. I didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't do a lot for me.
Yeah.
More just because I like wanted it to. I don't know. I wanted it to get where it was going faster. Now, this character Beryl, I guess she exists in 2 other animated short films.
Oh, interesting.
There's like 2 other, I guess, pretty famous short films that this character exists in prior to this one. So I wonder if seeing those would inform this one anymore. But
maybe, yeah.
But in any case, I'll say I did read one Letterboxd review that was so hilarious that I didn't like write it down verbatim, and I can't remember who said it, so I apologize to the person who wrote it. But if you wrote it, please message us and we'll give you love.
Yes.
It said something to the effect of, art therapy is good and all, but sometimes you just need therapy.
Yes. That's literally the perfect description for this short.
I did like the animation style, I'll say that.
Good.
I thought it was pretty sweet looking. And I saw like a little BTS video of the director and animator and her process, and it was very old school.
Oh, cool.
They showed an example of her, like the scene where I think it's either her sister or her friend or something is at that like communist meetup, and she's like singing. She's takes a bunch of pictures of herself, of her own face and mouth, and the way people like enunciate the words as she's like singing. And she like breaks it down by vowel, or not by vowel, by what's the word? Consonant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
She breaks it down with each consonant, and then she like uses her face as a reference and animates those little beats frame by frame. So that seemed very,
That's amazing.
Very time consuming and very impressive way to do it. But it does give it this kind of timeless look, and this look that feels both very, very animated, like very not real, but at the same time, like very cartoon. Real. Yeah. Very cartoony, but very lived in and grounded also.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I was trying to think of like how I would describe it, and to me I think one reason I really like it is it kind of reminded me of Shel Silverstein illustrations, because I loved those books growing up, and I was always like so intrigued by the character designs because they're all kind of creepy, honestly. And then, but then there's certain elements in the animation of this that also reminded me a lot of like the exaggerated cartoon portraits you see from like street artists in like big cities like New York, San Francisco, or like on the pier,
right?
Like Santa Monica, like that type of style. So it's like I can see why Letterboxd reviewers are like, oh, this is so half-assed, like this is not that impressive. But I would disagree. I think, especially based on what you were talking about, the behind the scenes, like clearly it takes a lot of work and effort and time. And I thought the overall like way it looked at the end of things was just so cool. Like it almost looks like she's just drawing her life story on like a sketchbook and flipping through the pages. And I just really like that aspect of it with like colored pencils. Like it's not even, the color is kind of dull as well, but
very muted.
Somehow it just works. And then I honestly love the like twisted dark humor of this story, like the casualness that Beryl embodies in telling the story of her psychologically twisted family and like borderline psychopathic sister, I thought was hilarious. Like, she makes it sound like it's just a normal thing, but it's like, your sister might be the scariest person to ever live. But then, you know, even though her family is like kind of fucked up, they band together and there's like so much love and they push each other towards their dreams. And, you know, Beryl's hating on herself and comparing herself to her family. And then she's just like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. Like, I'm going to go for my dreams. And I just think it's such a funny kind of ironic story, like way to tell this story.
Yeah. And I did like that at the ending. I was like, hey, look at that. You know, like a story about not giving up on your art or not giving up on your dreams, even though sometimes it feels like, you know, you're going absolutely nowhere. It's like,
yeah,
that's relatable. And they just went on a crazy wild path to get there. But you know what? Sometimes life is wild and crazy, you know. So
sometimes.
So I enjoyed it. I'll say that. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's not the most impressive thing, but I guess for me, I was kind of in awe of like just that someone could begin to write something like this. Like, it's such an original concept in a way. Like, I almost believe these characters were real people, which gives it an even creepier effect because they're all pretty eccentric and some more terrifying than others.
Yeah, absolutely.
But just like the attention to detail, like, and which I guess could also be a criticism, is like it went on for so long and there are so many like little memories. But that's what I loved so much about it, is I was like, they fully fleshed out this entire family history in 16 minutes. And it says so much about all the characters combined.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. The more we talk about it, the more impressed I am by it. So there you go.
It's one of those, like, I don't know. I would be very curious to hear what our listeners think about it, especially seeing like, oh my God, my face when I went onto Letterboxd after watching it, I was like, what? Oh my God. Like, well, this is just me who likes this. So let me know if you hate it. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you love it. We want to hear your guys' thoughts.
We want to know what your favorite flavor of Haterade is, y'all.
Yeah. I like that.
Affairs of the Art. It's streaming on YouTube. There's a great upload of it. The New Yorker posted it on YouTube, so it's great. Yeah. High quality. All right, everybody, we are going to take a quick break. During that break, you're going to hear from PGA producer, Gimme Three producer, and my wife, Sonia Maru, for your favorite segment, Sonia's Movie Minute. Stick around for that and much more here on the Gimme Three Podcast.
Hello, I'm Sonia, and this is my Movie Minute. There are a lot of great animated shorts, but for me, none will ever top the experience of seeing The Spirit of Christmas for the first time. It was freshman year of high school, and a friend of mine told a bunch of us that he had the coolest video, and we should all come over to his house, smoke some pot, and watch it. After being assured that it was not porn, I was in. We went to his house, and he put on a bootleg VHS that would change my life and the world forever. I think we watched the 5-minute video like 10 times, roaring with laughter over and over. Then he told us that these guys had actually gotten picked up to make an entire TV show. A few months later, South Park aired on Comedy Central, and the rest, as they say, is history. Sick, twisted, hilarious, and genius history. If you haven't seen The Spirit of Christmas, it's on YouTube and Vimeo for free. It's a 5-minute short made by Matt Stone and Trey Parker that sets the stage for South Park and its 4 main characters, Cartman, Kyle, Stan, and Kenny. In the short, Santa and Jesus battle it out to prove who is the more dominant Christmas symbol. In some ways, the short can seem kind of quaint when you watch it today, since South Park has pushed the boundaries of taste and humor to their limits for 25 years now. But what's really great is seeing how it was all there since day one. The animation style, which was very fresh and different at the time, I think. The banter between the boys, the swearing and insane sound effects. the sharp critique of religion, consumerism, and pop culture. Even Brian Boitano was there. 2 years ago, I made a pilgrimage to Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado for South Park's 25th anniversary concert. And it was all because of a VHS tape that I saw in 1997.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Gimme Three Podcast, a series for cinephiles and animated short films. That's the name of the game today. Thus far, we have talked about some stellar animated short films, including The Hole from 1962, Windshield Wiper from 2021, Mémorable from 2019, Affairs of the Art, also from 2021. And now we are each going to give our third and final picks of this installment of the Gimme Three Podcast. Animated short films. Bella, your third and final.
Yes, my third and final. I discovered this 7-minute short on Disney Plus, and I just thought it was so charming and adorable. And, you know, we've got a lot of kind of sad shorts in here today, so I wanted to add something on the more uplifting side of things. And that is Afton Corbin's animated short called 20-something. I'm just going to read the log line because I think it's pretty funny. It says, "Adulting is hard. One day you're nailing it, and the next you're 3 kids in a trench coat." I was like, what the hell does this mean? Like, what is going on here? So the short is about a recently 21-year-old girl named Gia who's going to a club for the first time with her older sister. But from the very beginning of the film, we see Gia portrayed as 3 children stacked on top of each other in a trench coat. We've got a 10-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a baby. And they all wear shirts with like their 10, 16, or 0 on it, which I thought was pretty funny. And it's basically just a metaphorical way of describing how we all have our inner children still within us, like from the different phases of our lives. And you know, feeling that imposter syndrome in your 20s of like, oh my God, I'm an adult now, but I still feel like a kid. And so I thought this was just
it doesn't
really
stop
fun.
in your 20s, by the way.
Yeah, no.
Spoiler alert.
That's 30 something is coming next. But yeah, so I thought this was just a great example of that, and yeah, wanted to choose it for our animated shorts. But yeah, Nick, what were your thoughts on this one? It's pretty silly.
I'll tell you. I don't know. There's a great chance that I'm an idiot. I tell that to
There's a great
everybody. There's a good chance I'm an idiot. But for the longest time, I didn't know what the fuck was happening in this movie.
No, honestly, I feel that.
and for the long, I was like, why? Like, how does nobody notice that these are 3 kids? It's like, this movie sucks. It's just so stupid. And then when you find out what's happening, I was like, oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
So it got me. me.
Well, if you're an idiot, then I'm an idiot because I had the same exact thing. I literally was just like, this is so dumb. Like, why does no one know?
Right.
and then same reaction, like, oh, cute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I watched it again because I was like, I need to see this with fresh eyes, knowing what the hell's happening.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, I thought it was a sweet little piece, and I thought the ending was lovely. And then you go around, you see like everybody's got the kids inside of them. You know, I thought it was just a lovely little piece. I love when movies are able to do that, and with shorts, it's a little bit easier to do that because in 7 minutes, it's easier for you to be like, hey, you didn't like this for a long time, but now you do. Sometimes features, I feel that way with features, but
right.
It's a little bit harder to like stick around in a feature for something that you are actively disliking.
Yeah, no, totally. This one takes like a quick turn.
Yeah.
And it's like right when you're like, it is kind of right when you're like, okay, this is getting ridiculous.
Right.
And then it's like a whole revelation kind of. But yeah, being 24 years old now, I just related so much to this film. with like what we're talking about, the imposter syndrome of being an adult. And then I really love how the different ages of the three kids in the trench coat each represents like a different aspect of Gia's personality, or like a different stage in her life. Like that defines who she is today as an adult. Like we've got the three inner children are always present. It's the 10-year-old who actually takes the reins for most of the film. This is like the age where you think you've got it all figured out. You're like radiating confidence. You're so excited to grow up. And then there's like the 16-year-old who represents all of Gia's insecurities and like self-doubts, like typical teenagehood. And then the baby is like essentially representing basic emotion, like that inside out type of shit.
Right.
We got like joy, sadness, disgust, fear. And like there's a scene where at the end we were talking about how all the people in the club start turning into like their inner children or whatever.
Right.
And I love that scene of the girl who's like waving down the bartender and he ignores her and she just turns into like a crying baby. It's like so true. But yeah, so I really liked that ending. I think it's a great short for just people of all ages, and it has some great advice and a lot of validation as well, which is what I really liked about it, is just being like, you know what, yeah, you're gonna feel this way probably forever, and everybody does, so it's okay, just roll with it. Like you're doing well, you're doing everything you need to be doing, and focus on that. Don't try to like put yourself down more than, you know, like, so I don't know, I liked that aspect of it a lot.
Absolutely, yeah, it's got a lovely message. I would say the biggest, like you said, I think the character work is great because you've got these three different versions of herself, and they all represent something different and have a different impact, and there's a need for all of them in a way also.
No, totally.
The thing that I think still I'm not quite a fan of at the end of the day was this film was the film that I thought I liked the animation style the least. It felt very bland.
Like Cartoon Network.
Yeah, it felt like I was watching a kid's show, but not an old kid show that had like voice and style. It just felt
it was very modern. I totally agree. Like I was hesitant to pick it just because I love animation so much, and I was like, oh, this is not my favorite, but I just liked the story so much.
The story,
like, whatever, we're gonna go with it. And it's different than the other styles, so. And
like you said, I'm glad you picked it because we need some smiles after I'm gonna fucking destroy us with this last one here.
Yeah, you're gonna go home crying from this episode.
I think I texted you and I said, "Hey, just to let you know, my picks are fucking bleak," and you said I expected that or something.
Yeah, I was like, I would expect nothing less. Very excited.
Yeah. But I enjoyed this. I did enjoy it, and it got me in the end.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear it. It's a silly little treat, but if you're interested, if you're in your 20s or you feel this way at all, and you need some validation, which we all do at times, check it out. It's on Disney Plus right now.
20-something. So I'm going to end this episode with 1998 animated short film called More. More. It's written and directed by Mark Osborne, who would later go on to co-direct Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Sorry, that took me by surprise. Wow.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen Kung Fu Panda with a little more intense themes like this.
A little more.
Yeah. So this film follows this nameless, voiceless, old, tired inventor as he kind of like is trudging along through his mundane life. He's a task rabbit, essentially, for this company called Get Happy. and his world is colorless.
Hmm.
But he's still got this fire in his belly, and it's very on the nose / beautifully portrayed by him opening up his stomach, and there's like a furnace inside of his body. It shows that he's got this fire in him, and after working his ass, he's getting reamed at work, he's just like, oh yeah, he's just not happy. He's just depressed, But after working his ass off, he finally creates an invention that makes him this well-respected inventor. He's rich. He's famous. He's even coined like investor of the century or something like that. And what he's invented, by the way, are these goggles that turn the colorless world into this vibrant LSD inspired like trip. People put them on and they see all these crazy colors, the colors, man. There's this one scene of like this old other TaskRabbit who's kind of like him, and his boss is down there screaming at him, and he puts on the goggles and he looks up and the boss is there smiling and waving at him. It's a great shot. Yes. Bliss is the name of the project, and it's basically Apple Vision Pros.
Yeah.
But really but 25 years before they were released. So hauntingly predictive of the future that we are living in / on the precipice of, where basically everybody just lives their life in these goggles and ignores the harsh realities of the world. But what he discovers is that his invention, his life mission, does not bring him happiness or the bliss that he was looking for. Yeah, he's rich. He's famous. But that fire inside of him is gone. It's snuffed out. And he realizes through some amazing bookended imagery that happiness and inspiration cannot be manufactured. More. What did you think of More, Bella?
Oh my God, this was my favorite out of all of them. I watched this film twice back to back and then 2 more times because it's only 6 minutes long.
It's 6 minutes. They do a lot. They do a lot in these 6 minutes, and it's totally silent.
It's insane.
There's no dialogue. It's a silent film.
It's 6 minutes that literally goes by in like the blink of an eye, but at the same time, it's such a dense and like thoroughly depicted story with just so much emotion and so many layers to unpack as well. Like. And the cycle of it is brilliant. So like watching it over and over was actually a lot of fun because you just get more and more out of it. And then it's also I think some of the best stop motion I've ever seen. Like I literally couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, how did they do this? And the score is everything.
The score is incredible.
My God.
Yeah. It's
I'm obsessed.
New Order, the 80s band, did the score.
Love it. Yeah, no, it kind of brought everything together, especially given it's like a silent movie kind of. So I'm obsessed with this. I think it's brilliant. I think it's heartbreaking, but in a way it makes me like kind of ironically hopeful, where I'm like, okay, we've seen this, like let's do the opposite.
Yeah, it does show
maybe
you.
That's just the optimist in me.
No, I agree. I mean, it is. It's one of those wake up call movies.
It's like a warning.
Yeah, and it shows you the truth, which we all know, is that you cannot buy happiness, or happiness does not come from things.
Right.
Happiness comes from experience and life and love, and that is the overall message of the film. And if you are open to that, if you are able to open up your chest and your heart like the character does in this movie, and let that thought in, that maybe the fire can come alive. But I totally agree.
Loved that. Sorry, I loved that visualization of like the light in his stomach. It's such a great metaphor, the way he like loses it in the end. And
And even in the beginning, you know, like you could tell,
Yeah.
like he like dips his hand in the fire and he pulls it out, and
Yeah.
it's like his fingertips are like on fire, but then they get snuffed out, and it's like a beautiful way to depict like he's got to do something before he loses it, before he doesn't have any fire
Yes.
left. They do a lot in a little amount of time in this film.
Yeah, it's insane how much there is to like go through. Like I feel like you could glean any type of story from this,
Mhm.
honestly. Like I would be happy to hear every person's own unique takeaway, because I think there is so much, and I think all of it would be valid because it's like 6 minutes of just everything.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I love how he's kind of almost faced with the question of like, did I ever really get to like achieve that dream, or did I just lose all of it by falling into like patterns of capitalism and like the cycle of everything? And
Right.
oh, it's just heartbreaking, but so good. And yeah, I loved I can't get over the stop motion. And even just, it's funny, I was thinking like, I didn't even really think about the fact that they're not humans,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
which is so interesting, because I very much was like, oh, this is very, very much our world,
Yeah.
but in like a different version of it. And then I was like really sitting there and I was like, what even are they? Like I was like, are they robots? Are they aliens? Like, are they?
Yeah, they're kind of for our audience. Again, check it out. It's 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Next time you need to take a shit, like it's a great
Yeah.
opportunity
Honestly.
to watch this. But they are like kind of these. They all look the same, more or less, and they're kind of these like shapeless, featureless, gray blobs that have like a face with two eyes and a square jaw and a mouth, and then
Yeah.
like ET looking bodies that are all just
Yes.
gray, and then the gray bodies have this little door where they can like open up their stomach, and that's basically the character design. But everybody kind of looks like that. Everybody kind of like, you know, is on the same track. You know, they're just kind of going through the motions.
Yeah. Do you think was the Bliss also stop motion, or like how?
Oh, that was a different animation style
Because that was
altogether.
totally different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was curious how they went about it, if you knew.
Yeah, that was just I think standard 2D animation.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I forgot to mention that this blends animation styles. For most of the film, it's stop motion, but when you go inside of these, that shot of the boss waving, it just
My God,
it cracks
so
me up
good.
every time. It's just like they show him Scrooge like, bah, but he doesn't like actually say words. He's just like, bah, 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 bah. And then he puts on the goggles and he's just smiling and waving. It's fucking great. It's fucking great movie.
Oh, it's so good. And like you just get such a sense of like the energy in even just like production design wise, like the main guy's home.
Mhm.
You get like such a
Yeah.
sense of like all his inner turmoil and anxiety about his life and like his passions and what he's doing with his life. And then like the chaos and really extreme anxiety and like kind of torturous atmosphere of the factory that he works in for Get Happy. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's all so good. And then even just like when he's riding on the bus through the city, like the grayscale skyscrapers, it's such an impressive world building for 6 minutes. I can't recommend it enough. Like, watch this movie and just watch it over and over and over again. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. More. It is available on YouTube. Great version of it on YouTube. So check that out.
Yeah.
Let us know, everybody, please, what you think of More. Let us know what you think of all these animated short films. You know, this is kind of fun because so many, obviously we're always talking about features. These are all, 15 minutes max. So you can watch all of these movies in the same amount of time that it'd take you to watch one feature film. So
Yeah.
we definitely want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear if you have any recommendations of your own, any animated films that you've seen over the course of your life that you would love to recommend to us. We want to hear from you. You can do that by messaging us on Instagram. Drop into our DMs, slide into our DMs, as the kids say. Is that right? Is that what the 20-somethings say?
I think so. I think you're right.
Gimme Three Podcast. That's all one word. GIMME, spell out 3 podcast. That's us on Instagram. Follow us, message us there. You can also send us a text message, and you can do that by scrolling down to the episode description. And at the top, you'll see a link that says send us a text message. Click that, and you can send us a text message. And we would please do. We want to hear from you. My friends, that is a wrap for today. Bella, do you want to tell the folks where they can find you on the socials?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram at Portrait of a Cinephile, or on Letterboxd at B Efstratis.
Nice. You can find me on Letterboxd at Nicholas Ybarra. You can find me on Instagram at Nicholas Ybarra. You can find me on Twitter, also known as X, at Nicholas P. Ybarra. And the P stands for positive.
Yes.
We stay positive. At least this week.
Yeah. Need that.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks for listening to the Gimme Three Podcast, and we will see you at the movies.